How would you like to grow your business the easy way, and in my humble opinion, the fun way, through speaking? Yes, you can literally speak your way to more business, and we can show you how. When I started my coaching business 15 years ago, I struggled making only $900 in the first 2 years. Yeah, you heard that right. Less than $1,000 in 2 years. The problem? I was busy running around to networking events and handing out business cards, trying to help everyone, everyone. Then I took the stage for the first time in my life and began speaking and teaching about the strategies I coached on. And when I really got my message dialed in, my business went literally from 3 figures a year to 7 figures. The secret I finally realized is that when you take the stage, you instantly become seen as the leading voice in your niche or industry. Today, we show entrepreneurs just like you and just like I was how to dominate your niche by becoming the leading voice, not just another expert. We run an incredible business mastermind speaker training program. It's called The Leading Voice. You guessed it. If you head over to leadingvoiceplatform.com/podcast and grab my free roadmap, 8 Pillars to Profitable Speaking. This free roadmap outlines the exact 8 secret weapons you need to truly become the leading voice in your niche. This is exclusively for my podcast listeners. You go to leadingvoiceplatform.com/podcast and start speaking your way to more business.
Speaking of getting booked, this podcast is about one thing:
getting booked to speak more. Whether you are an established speaker or a newbie, we want to see your career take off.
Hundreds of speakers are hired every single day,
and you are next.
Let's jump in with your host, Matt Brawning.
Hey, welcome back to Speaking of Getting Booked. You're a speaker. You want to get booked more. And that's where we come in, because I'm always sitting down with meeting planners, promoters, seminar leaders, chapter presidents, really anyone who's responsible to have a stage, a live stage. And that's the big difference with us, is the live stage where you can be in front of your ideal prospects and clients. That's one of the hardest things to do. And of course, we cover everything from paid speaking to pay to speak to free speaking, lead generation, and sales from the stage. There's a lot of different ways to crush it and do great as a speaker. With me today is probably one of my longest time speaker friends, sisters. We go way, way back, and it's always such a glorious time hanging out together. Arvee Robinson. I just want to jump in. Arvee is a master speaker trainer, but she's presented over 3,500 of her own presentations, and I'm sure the number has grown since writing that bio. She does keynotes. She does educational programs, conferences, retreats. She runs her own workshops and seminars, and she has shared the stage with speaking giants, people like Mark Victor Hansen, Laurel Langemeyer, Tom Hopkins, Bill Walsh, Chris Howard, Joel Bauer, J. Conrad Levinson, Eric Lofholm, John Childers, Adam Rubinski, love Adam, Raymond Aaron, Larry Benet, Jill Lublin, the PR queen, and so many more. Wow. And I've been on your stage many, many times. You've also been on my stages, so I cannot wait just to dive into this whole industry. Arvee, how are you?
Hey, Matt, I'm great. I should have put on there your name, because you and I have shared the stage many times.
But then I'd have to be a speaking giant, and then that would change your whole entire bio.
You are a speaking giant.
Man, I'm so glad. So I just want to jump right in, quick backstory with you and with us. Tell everyone a little bit just quickly, like how we met and how we came into each other's lives. And then I want to hear your start in speaking after that.
Okay, well, you and I met because I was invited to one of your events. Remember that?
Yeah, it was our 5-day NLP event, or 4 days, right, whatever it was at the time. The one that your husband, it's my favorite story. Your husband did not believe, because we were doing hours crazy. I was in my early 30s, maybe 20s by then. So I was doing like 9 a.m. to midnight. We'd stay till 1, 2, 6 a.m. was the late night. And I remember you telling me your husband did not believe that you were at a seminar all night long.
Right. I was coming in right when he was leaving for work, and the look I got from him.
It's like, there's no way you can't be one of, and that was one of the marks that what I always did very differently than so many other seminar leaders, contemporaries, because I had those crazy late nights. But I'm glad all that ends well as well, and you and Michael
Right.
are very happily married today.
Right. He's still my
it
husband.
was a pretty funny thing though. I thought that was hilarious. So ever since then, we started hanging out, and we get together. Obviously, every time I'm in town, we're getting together at Lucille's to have some barbecue lunch.
That's
You're one of my favorite
right.
people to visit. But I've also spoken on your stage many times. I want to talk about some of your stages.
Okay.
How did you, I know a lot of your story, but tell us kind of a little bit of how did you decide to say, I'm done with corporate, I'm not doing anything else, I'm doing speaking, I'm an entrepreneur at this, and how did that start?
Well, so I started my speaking career in corporate America because I was asked to speak there. And after about 23 years, I reached the top that I could reach in that field. I worked for a large CPA firm as a systems consultant. And I realized one day that I wasn't making a difference anymore. Where early on, I was a trailblazer, making a difference. And so I knew it was time to make a change. And so I prayed about it. And it wasn't long before God gave me the answer. And he said, public speaking. But that's not how he said it to me, Matt. He said, teach others what I've taught you. That's how he said it to me. And I knew exactly what he meant. Yeah.
Teach others what I taught you.
Yes.
Which coincidentally has been shown and proven in studies that it's the very best way to master any content is not to go over the content multiple times, but it's to teach the content as quickly as you can, because the teaching is the thing that puts you, it's like in a different perspective or something. That's really cool. Did you start teaching on the same, because I don't think I know this answer, did you start teaching on the same content you were teaching in corporate, or did you jump right out into public speaker training as you've been doing for years because you had trained and taught for so many hours?
Right. No, what I taught in corporate America was I was teaching business owners how to automate their accounting system. See, I started back in the 80s, and back then, small to mid-sized companies couldn't afford to automate accounting. There just wasn't systems out there until finally microcomputers came on the scene, and now they could afford to buy them and to implement them. So I was teaching more of the accounting, how to set up an accounting system and how to enter your accounts payable and accounts receivable, that kind of thing. But during that time, I used speaking to get the clients, and I thought I could just go out and speak without being trained, and I did, and I failed miserably, and it took a woman coming up to me to tell me that I really sucked at it. She said, honey, you say okay after every sentence, and I didn't realize that. But after she said that, I realized that I needed to respect public speaking, and I needed to get trained if I was going to step on stages. So then I got trained. I, went to seminars, hired mentors and coaches, and the better I got with public speaking, the better my clients got. And then I just used it in corporate America to get clients, to get promotions, because in a CPA firm, a lot of the managers weren't really extroverts, what I call outerverts. They were introverts, they weren't outerverts. And so, I got a lot of visibility and a lot of attention, and that led to promotions and so on and so on. And so when I transitioned into my own business, it was a natural transition in a way, because I had been teaching my colleague public speaking, and I was asked to teach group communication skills to a lot of the other people in corporate America. So it was a natural transition. It wasn't like nothing and then just boom, I'm an instant public speaking coach. I had been doing that on an inside company, even though that wasn't my job. My job was, I would do that on the weekends and things like that.
Sure, but you became really known in that space, and the industry is like, hey, Arvee's the one who does the speaking, and she's really great at it. So people will come to you, and you're building them up, and you're teaching them what you already learned. So now you go out on your own and you start public speaker training. Did you speak for a while and doing free sessions and sales training, or did you initially start putting on seminars of your own where you would sell your programs, products, and services? What kind of came first, speaking or seminars?
Well, first, it was speaking for free, but it wasn't long, because I got it. I went out there and I realized I would go to seminars, and I realized, you know what? I was in a seminar one day. It was an Adam Urbanski seminar.
Adam. Do you know Adam and I have the same birthday?
Yes, I saw that on
December
Facebook.
18th.
I love it. I love it. But you're much
carry on.
younger. You're much younger than he is. I hope he doesn't hear this.
I hope he does. Adam, you're getting old,
I
bud.
love him. I love him. He was my first mentor. If it wasn't for him,
Good
when
man.
I got out of corporate America, he was my first mentor. I think if it wasn't for him, I might have ran back to corporate America because I didn't know anything about being an entrepreneur. And, he helped me through that. But anyway, it was one of his seminars. And I looked at a friend that I barely knew. I looked at him and I said, it was the end of the seminar. We were all high from the, explosion of the seminar and everything. And I looked at my friend and I said, you know what, we could do this. And he said, yes, we can. And I said, but I want to do something about speaking. And he said, so do I. And so we developed Speak Your Way to Wealth. And that ran for about 9 years. And I've had everybody you can imagine on that particular stage. And it was a multi-speaker event when that was in its glory. So I did that like probably a year into my company because I didn't want to wait. The reason why I did it is because I didn't want to wait for people to ask me to be on their stage. I said, well, let's just create our own stage. And so I've been creating stages for people ever since.
That was one of the first ones I spoke at as well, right? Was that the same event? Speak Your Way to Wealth?
Know.
Or
did you? You know what?
Gold?
You are
Go for the
right.
gold?
You're right. That was the same genre, but for 1 year we changed it to Go for the Gold because we thought people would not want to, come after 9 years to the same event.
Sure, but essentially it was the same event.
Just change the name. Was it? Right, you were on there. That was so wonderful.
Yeah, well, and I remember that. So while we're on that subject, let's quickly talk about this. And I think it would be great. Let's get into some nuggets of getting booked. I think it would be phenomenal. Okay. So putting on your seminar promoter hat, you had all different types of speakers coming to that event. And let's talk about multi-speaker events for a moment.
Okay.
So these are events where traditionally, there's going to be no keynote fee for a speaker. And
right.
You're either going to have paid sponsorships, so the speaker pays, or it's going to be some kind of a free speaking. Especially initially, what caused you to say yes to speakers? What were some of the things you looked for? And then what caused you to say no? And I'm talking kind of early, maybe the first 5 years of it. I know a part of it is like you wanted to build your name and your brand. So if you had a bigger name speaker, you'd probably say, hey, yep, you can speak for free. However that worked. What was your style and your preference going into that?
Right. Good question, because we really didn't know what we were doing. So I think we really just invited anybody that would say yes in the beginning. But in the very first Speak Your Way to Wealth, we wanted speakers that would sell speaking. Now, in hindsight, that was really not such a good idea because then they competed with me.
So you mean sell speaking, like they from the stages sell packages for speaking?
Speaker training.
Oh, okay. So you'd have a bunch of speakers all selling speaker training. If you were a speaker trainer and everyone's speaker training speakers and you got a lot of speakers.
I know, it was crazy, right? But we did. So we had Dottie Walters on the stage, which, sells some speaker training. We had James Malinchak, who sold speaker training.
Sure. I know you had Joel Bauer, right?
Well, that's prior to Joe Bauer. But yeah, eventually we had him on the stage. We had, I can't even remember the name now, but we had several. And of course, because we thought that's what it was. And then it didn't take me too many years before I figured out,
this is not going well.
I'm not going to have that kind of competition. So we had, then we invited people that complimented, like Laura Langemeyer and, of course, Mark Victor Hansen.
So they teach on like wealth or on books or on mindset or something different, but not on speaker training.
Right.
So what caused you to invite someone like a Laurel or a Mark or whomever it was that was a complimentary? Was it the idea of, hey, if you can sell from stage because this is the style of event at the time? Or was it the recognition of the name to get people to come? Or was it because what they would do for you in a JV relationship? If you were to prioritize those, I guess, goodies, what was your kind of top priorities when you looked for a speaker at the time?
Good question. Most of the time it was fame. how well known they were. And then second, it was sales, because oftentimes we didn't know how good they would sell until they were on the stage. So Laurel Langemeyer, for one, before she came to our big Speak Your Way to Wealth, or she was actually Gold for the Gold. We did Gold for the Gold 2 years in a row. And I'll never forget, she had this gold jacket on that looked like it was made of coins. It was so awesome. But I had her on my single stage. I have lots of stages. So I do a one-day event, which you've been to, called at that time Speak Up, Cash In.
Yep.
And she came to that first. And then I saw how she could sell. And then I invited her to the even bigger stage. So sometimes it was a strategy like that, just kind of test them out on a private stage, my stage, and then bring them to the bigger stage. Because even a lot of the big speakers, I had Raymond Aaron on Go for the Gold, and Joel Bauer. And Joel Bauer, actually, his company called us. We didn't go after him. We didn't even know he existed. And they phoned us. But in the very beginning, actually, like say our first few Speak Your Way to Wealth, we selected people that were our mentors or that supported us or served us, like Adam was on our first stage. So I would say what I teach my clients now is if you want to get on bigger stages, then you got to use stage grace. And stage grace is go to the event, right? Support it. Just visit, go to the event, serve at the event, right? Ask if you can become an affiliate and bring people to the event, right?
So if someone comes to you, and at any point, even now, if someone came and said, hey, Arvee, I saw you're doing this new event. It looks awesome. Can I support you in this? Obviously you have a good heart about it, but like, how would you want someone to ask you, hey, can I support you in this? Can I become an affiliate? I'd like to maybe help promote it. But then if I also say, obviously I'd love to be able to speak. If you have a speaking spot, can we talk about that? And this is a weird question because it's very subjective to each person. It's subjective to who asks it, and it's subjective to who receives it. But how would someone approach you, let's say, without without a bad vibe, without you going, oh, come on, you just want to get on my stage. You know what I mean? Like, let's say you really are pure about it. But you're like, yeah, I want to get on stage. I'd love to speak at your event. How can I approach you in a way that's not going to turn you off?
That's a $1 million question right there. Because
it really is, because you make $1 million a year if you answer that question right.
The best approach is to come from a giving approach. So like if someone came up to me and said, Arvee, I love what you're doing. I want to have you on my stage, right? Do you have a stage I can be on, like a stage swap? I would be more than willing, as long as I've heard them, because I have a reputation as a speaker trainer, so I can't have some dud non-speaker guy or girl be on it. But let's say I know they're a great speaker, then a stage swap would be a nice way to approach, or most of the time I'm approached from like a very taking point of view. Right?
Explain that a little more, because I think some people do that because that's kind of how they're wired, but I think the majority of people do that accidentally. And part of what we talk about a lot on the show is like, how do you not be that person? Because they don't want to, but you can come off that way. So what are some of the things that are like the dead giveaways that you're like, do not say this or do not act like this?
Yeah. Do not say, can I be on your stage? I mean, especially if someone doesn't know you, or give me a one sheet and say, I want to speak on your stage. I'm thinking like, I don't even know you, It's like, in a way, you're saying, hey, I want to go to bed with you. And you didn't even give me a kiss.
We hadn't even had a date.
Right, we haven't even had a date. So that's what I mean by stage grace. So get to know people. Make sure you're a fit. I mean, people ask to be on my $1 million stage and they don't even know what it is. They don't even know what it's about, and they're not even a fit. So I would recommend for people to, again, sponsor the event first.
Research the event. Make sure you know what it even is, right?
Make sure you know what it is. Sponsor the event. Man, if someone got 10 people to any of my events, they would get 5 minutes on stage. Then in there, no questions asked.
And that's minimum. That's right? Like, hey, I'm supporting you. So guys, listen, like one of the most important things, the simplest thing you can do is if you really want to get in someone's good graces, you'd really like to be able to speak on their stage, show them, put your money where your mouth is, show them first and help promote and get some people to the event. If you have a database of any size, even if you have, 100, or we all have a database, it's called Facebook, right? But like that really, it's a database. And instead of emailing someone, you're messaging them, or you're putting something on the wall that several hundred of them will see. So why not say, hey, I'm really excited that my friend Arvee is putting on an event and I'm going to be there. And that's one of the simplest things you could do.
Right.
You know Craig Duswalt, right?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, and Craig's been a dear friend for years. I've been in his mastermind for I don't know how many years at this point, but he is awesome. And I've spoken on the stage many times, but I always share the story. The very first time that I got invited was, well, the first time I met him, I bought his program. And
There you go.
there's something powerful about, I could have approached it differently. I could have said, hey, I'm kind of a big deal too, and I have events and you have events, and let's JV and try to, I don't know. But I thought, if I was him and I just spoke at this event, I wouldn't want some guy trying to pass a card to me and try to big league me, I don't know, whatever. So I just said, hey, I love what you're doing. I'm looking forward to getting to know you. Here's my form. I'll see you at the event. I think there's a lot we can do together. And then I showed up and I supported him. And we've been stage trading for years ever since.
Beautiful. I love that story. And my students get on my stage, every single one of them. They get on my $1 million stage. I often bring them to my one-day stage. But Matt, I've got a couple more stages that you don't even know about yet that is huge.
Me right now.
Right? Okay, so
you have stages I don't even know about.
That's right, because they just happen. So,
Arvee, how can I support you?
No, but I just got this opportunity to organize and put together this event that's a women's event. 250 women go, business owners. Once a year, it's a one-day event. It's called Women in Business Conference in Orange County. It's for SCORE, right?
Oh, wow.
So they don't pay. You can't sell from the stage. It's pure educational. But guess what? I'm in charge of it. I'm in charge of getting the speakers, and I don't have to promote the thing. Isn't that great?
That's incredible. Now, some people might be missing why that's such a huge opportunity. So if someone spoke there, you're not getting paid to speak. You also can't sell from stage, which leaves us the third opportunity. What do you do? And this is something that you have just mastered, turning the hat for a second as a speaker, is using speaking to grow your database, your leads, basically speaking as a prospecting tool, as a marketing tool. Talk to me a little bit about, not just in general, because the people listening to this right now are beyond just kind of the initial, hey, how does speaking work? So talk to me about some of maybe your specific tactics or some of the things that have worked really well for you when you speak for free and you can't sell. How do you leverage that so it's not, because it can be a waste of time, quite frankly. And I don't mean that in a negative, these people aren't any good, but especially if you're going to get on a plane or you're going to go get a hotel and then you speak in front of 40 people and you're like, yeah, I got 12 business cards. And that can be a little disheartening because of all the time and expense. So what are some ways that you've leveraged free stages really, really effectively? What are some of the genius ideas?
Okay, so 2 ways, and it depends how long you have to speak. So if you have a good 20 to 30 minutes, then what I recommend, instead of just collecting business cards and getting, filling your database, which is fine, I believe in a combo. So a combo, doing strategy sessions and the business cards. So instead of collecting business cards, you create a little form that they quickly fill out, only name, email address, and then a couple of boxes. And the boxes is free strategy session, maybe go to a free event. And then the third one is book you as a speaker, because you must have your speaking effort roll into another speaking effort, and so on and so on. So you always want to have something on there about booking you at another event in the future or on a podcast or whatever. Then you can either do a giveaway with those cards or you just have them pass them in. And I have leveraged my speaking to where maybe I don't get all the cards like building the database, but I get really hot leads that I call. Yeah, and do a strategy session, close them for coaching, close them for a workshop, and make a lot of money in one speaking engagement and really help a lot of people, because you could drip on them all day long, but that's not going to really help them become a speaker.
Yeah, we've talked about this quite a bit, actually, you and I, offline, and I've wrestled with it over the years, and as you have, I'm sure as well. This concept of I don't want to be so much of a sales guy that I'm always closing, and as soon as I meet them, I'm like, close, buy my stuff. But then I went the other way, and it's like, I'm just going to nurture it, I'm going to build, and then it's like things just kind of turned cold also, because it's like they were excited when they saw me and they saw what they could do, but then life gets in the way. So I've kind of come back to that middle ground of, I don't need to be this type A closer, but expediency really is everything after a speaking gig, because people were like, yes, that thing you said was relevant, I want to learn it. So the quicker you can move to, hey, let's teach you how to do it, let's do something together, the better. The other thing I love that you just said was have a box in your free gift or your opt-in form for book Arvee as a speaker.
Yes.
And now it's like, you don't know who's in your audience. You could have a few people, especially at seminars. You're going to have some podcast hosts. You're going to have maybe someone else who runs their own seminar, I've met some corporate people. In the last event I put on, RV, I had a photographer that was there. And you'll love this, the photographer for John Densmore, the drummer from The Doors, and several other like huge kind of classic rock musicians. And he was just a guy who attended the event. But once we started connecting, he's like, oh, you're looking so now we have connections going. I had a producer from Los Angeles television sitting you don't know who's in the audience, I guess is my point. Treat them all gold. Treat them all like they're gold. That's for sure. You know?
Right. Agreed. And I want to take the second to do the second ways.
Oh, yeah.
And the second way is sometimes, I said, depending on how long you have to speak, a lot of times, our speaker time is getting shorter and shorter because of the attention span of our audience and because of boring speakers, to be quite honest. And so it's getting shorter and shorter. About 15 minutes is the average now. But what happens if you only have 5 minutes? You can't really send out the cards and do all that. So a lot of speakers don't do any close at all. And I'm like, you have to do a close every single time you speak, or what I call an invitation. So the invitation, if you only have 5 minutes, it's just simple. It goes like this. If I've inspired you in any way, come and see me or come to my booth. See, even at SCORE, you can't sell from the stage, but you get a booth. So you send people to the booth and you close them there, for heaven's sake.
You want.
Always a way to get business and to help people. You just sometimes have to be creative.
So my takeaway from that is no matter what, there's never an excuse not to invite or close.
Correct.
And I have a gig coming up that's like a sponsorship gig that's a 2-minute. You get 2 minutes on stage, and it's like, great. You know what I'm going to do for 2 minutes? I'm going to tell a story for 90 seconds that is inspired action, and then I'm going to say, come over to the table, and here's what I'm going to give you. I have this thing for you. Come on over and grab it. It's free. Or it'll be a text opt-in. There's all different tools and things. Make sure you know what tool you're using. And one of the things you have, which I actually want to chat about real quick so we don't miss it, is your closing script. You have a really cool new freebie that you put up called How to Turn Interested into Income After Every Speech. So exactly what we're just talking about. If you want to know what are the scripts, exactly what do I say to turn people from to actually signing up to get something, and now you can move forward with the strategy session, whatnot. We're going to put this up on the description here, or on the show description, but it's at Arvee, which is ARVEE, Robinson.com/free closing script, and you can grab that now. Tell us a little bit about that, and why is that something you created for people?
Because most people just don't know how to pull out the interested people. They know how to do a free raffle and put in the, cards and all that, and then they end with that. But that doesn't necessarily get you the clients. It helps you build your database, but you don't know if those people are interested in what you have or not. This pulls out only the people that are interested. And I outline straight exactly what to say, when to say it, the do's and the don'ts. It's like a 5-page document. It's not like a 1-page check. It's a 5-page document. And if you follow it, then out of a group of 25 people, you can get at least 5 hot leads. These are people that come to you and say, I want you to call me. I want you to follow up with me, right? Now, if you kept doing that, if you only spoke 4 times a week to a small group of 25, right, and pulled that's 20 hot leads in a month.
Right. And then you go to what's your closing ratio? What are you closing? 20% maybe into coaching or into programs? And that's not that high. Yeah. Like that's a pretty easy thing to do, right?
Yeah. Well, if they're interested people, right, and you set it up right and you say it right and pre-frame it right, then they're not going to be looky-loos or tire kickers. They're going to be serious buyers. And so you could probably close minimum 3 if you're good at closing, because there might be a couple that the timing just isn't right for them. Usually it's not because of the money. It's just timing, adding something else to their already busy to-do list. But imagine closing 3, right? 3 times 4 is 12. That's 12 clients a month.
Yep.
Times a month out of the year. That's 100 clients. Now, what's a client worth to you? 5,000, 10,000? What about the life of the client? I mean,
right.
This is serious way to build your business.
Well, with that math, you're talking, even if you sold $1,000 program, which really in the coaching world is kind of
nothing.
It's like entry level. You're already doing over 6 figures.
Yeah.
Times it by 5, you're doing over $500,000, almost $600,000 a year. That's a pretty considerable business.
It
And it's
sure
all from
is.
speaking. Hey, can we switch gears back to seminars for a second?
Okay.
And I love hearing this, and I want to pre-frame, this can be anonymous, of course. You can change the details to protect the innocent or the guilty. What are some of your maybe worst speaker experiences? Either a speaker who came to your event and you're like, never again are they coming, or perhaps an event that you went to and you went, wow, I can't believe how that seminar got ran. And this is, quick disclaimer, we're not griping. This is
Right.
lesson learning time. So please don't think we're bitter about it, but these are two veterans in speaking. I'd love to hear some of the horror stories of what we can learn to never do when we're trying to connect to get booked on speaker stages.
Right. Well, I think a couple things. One, on both sides, being a speaker and going to an event where they promise X number of people and there isn't any real audience, but instead you go and everybody's either a speaker or a sponsor or they're involved in some way.
Half the audience are all there because they're going to get their own stage time, essentially.
Yeah, there's no buyer, so no real buyer. So that's always a bummer, and that's really nothing that you can foresee. Except, my warning is: be careful of new events.
Yes.
You know, if someone hasn't had a history, if they just brand new at it, and they haven't done a lot of workshops or they haven't put on a lot of events, and they're trying to do a big event, be careful. I always recommend to my clients, put on a small seminar first. Do an evening event. Do a half a day on a Saturday. Bring your friends. Let's build it up. Don't try to get 100 people in when your database is 1,000. I mean, it just won't work. Right? So that's one thing.
Well, that's the classic number, isn't it? How many people are going to be there? Oh, 100. Oh, we're shooting for 100.
I know, 10, and there's 10 or something. So that's one side. That's me being the speaker. And me being the promoter, putting the promoter hat on, it's speakers that in the multi-speaker arena that couldn't sell or didn't sell, because you're putting, in the old days, we would put all the risk on the promoter, all the expense was on the promoter. You would invite someone to speak. They wouldn't send out an email, even though it was in the contract. They wouldn't promote it. It's the worst nightmare. So now you got all the people in the room, which is all new people, and now here they come in, they kind of steal your people, and they don't sell and give you anything. So that's a nightmare. And I'll tell you, now that is one of the reasons that promoters kind of turn to a pay and play approach, whether or not we like it or not. It's because they got tired of speakers not being able to sell on the platform. And I've seen it through the years. There's been some really great sellers, but they didn't sell. It kind of takes that one speaker to just break that chain. And I don't, just like go through it, because sometimes your audience is sitting there with their arms crossed going, I'm not going to buy anything. I'm not going to buy anything.
Yeah. And it's really easy to quickly go like the wrong direction, because if you get a speaker who's like kind of trying to oversell and they're not really that good. And I watched this. I remember at a seminar I was speaking at once, I watched another guy go up. Obviously won't say who it was, but half the presentation, I talk about myself, you talk about yourself, but half of it was him and photos with people, like literally half, not just the intro. And he went on and on and on. And he was like, okay, and this is, I want to help you. And are you committed to your business? And then he did the other half was basically his pitch. And at the end, I think he sold one out of, 100 and something people there. But what happened is I remember watching the audience, and after he went on, the next speaker came up and people had that, it was like the audience gets more and more closed or more open.
Right.
And now it's like, you don't want the speaker to make your audience now protective and jaded and, whoa, now they're all going to try to sell to me and all these, and then all of a sudden you get people talking in the hallways, and the culture of a seminar is really important. Would you agree?
Absolutely. In one of my events at Speak Your Way to Wealth early on, I literally, some woman, I was in the back, and this woman got up from her seat before the speaker was done, and she looked at me and she just said, slime. And I just was like, oh my God.
I know who you're talking about. I'm just kidding.
I know. I don't even remember, but that's the feeling that she got, was she was slime. And I thought, that's not what I want. I try to tell people, when it's a multi-speaker event, treat it like a smorgasbord. Treat it like somebody's going to be your next mentor. And here you get a taste of different people and different personalities, and you pick. You get to pick.
That's such a good frame.
Yeah. Where can you go where you can see a bunch of different mentors? That's how I got most of my mentors, is going to live events with multi-speakers. And now it's a shame that that's not really a popular model anymore.
Well, and I think to kind of the earlier point to me, that's the reason why it's not popular anymore. Because we started hearing those things like people go, oh, it's just going to be a speaker-thon. It's going to be a sell-a-thon. It's going to be a
Sellathon.
blah, blah. It's like, oh, speaker sell. And it's interesting because the way you describe that, it's like, that's actually pretty cool. One of the frames I use if I'm going to have multiple speakers on is, hey, like I teach people, it's okay to say yes, it's okay to say no. And if the audience feels like they can't say no because everything has this weird pressure to it, then that's when they go, you know what, boundary, I'm going to walk out the door. Whereas if it's okay to go, hey, this is really relevant to me. I'd like to find out more. I'd like to do your program. You know what, this one isn't really relevant. I'm not looking to build an online course. So, hey, but I liked what you did. If it's okay to have that culture, then all of a sudden it's like people are buying what they need and not what they don't. And
That's right.
I'm selling some students, you're selling other ones, and the whole thing, it actually works pretty well.
Right. I want to share one other thing when you said, what's a good experience and bad. I remember I had an event called Market Your Way to Wealth, and I had a speaker on that sold internet marketing services.
Oh, yeah.
And he sold from the stage, right? He sold $50,000, right? So my business partner and I were like, cha-ching! We just got $25,000 from one speaker. So we're like doing the happy dance.
So happy.
Well, guess what happens? And this is what audiences don't see. They just see people running in the back of the room. By the time it was said and done, Monday morning,
How was the cancellation rate?
95% of the people dropped out of the course because because it wasn't what they wanted. Only one sale for $4,000 stuck. That is horrible as a promoter because you're getting all excited and then let down. So that happens. Sometimes, there's buyer's remorse and people cancel and, they're out of the frenzy. And, so as a promoter, that was a sad day.
Wow. Yeah, no joke. Well, and there's a few, the other thing to, I think, keep in mind, and tell me what your experience is with this, Arvee, that you're, as a speaker, when you're pretty new, nobody knows you, so you want to create a reputation. But once you've been around a little bit, especially in your local area, if you go to events or you put on events, your reputation really precedes you. If you're always late when you speak, or if you always stick around or you don't, or even because there's a few speakers I could think of that, like, I wouldn't have on my stage for exactly what you just said. I know that they create a frenzy and then there's a cancellation rate. It's like, I don't know, lately it's like I've been selling less than I used to, but my cancellation rate has gone to negative 10%. I usually, literally negative 10, because whoever closes stays. And then on average, there'll be an extra 1 or 2 people the next day or Monday go, hey, is there any way I can still get that? And I don't know, good, bad, I like it. I think it's way better. And there's nothing cooler than having the promoter text you and say, hey, we just had another person email and ask if they could still do your program. Is there any way you can still offer the pricing? I was like, yeah, she was at the event, no problem. But that kind of stuff is pretty cool.
Very cool.
As we wind down, I know our time is coming right now. Tell me a little bit more, just kind of the last piece about the types of seminars you're doing now. I know we mentioned that these multi-speaker, you're still having speakers, but it's not the same culture that it used to be, when we first got in 10, 15 years ago. What's the culture like now? What are the events you're putting on that are right now that we should be aware of, especially your speaker training events? I'd love to, if you want to plug those, but I also want to kind of know like what they're like.
Okay, so I have my big event once a year is called the $1 Million Speaker Summit, $1,000,000speakersummit.com. And that one is primarily my self-teaching, which it actually is the new model, is having the expert teach to a smaller group of people and sell a large program at the end. Yep. So my audience is about 80 people. Between 60 and 80, so it's a smaller group. I do have sponsors that come and sponsor it, and I do have a couple of premier sponsors like Infusionsoft and Direct Pay that come and help, and they get speaking time. Oh, cool. But otherwise, it's my teaching, a couple of sponsors speaking, and then my student. And so
that's so great. I love that you have a space to highlight the speaker students.
Here is the coolest thing, because I just spoke to Jason at an event I just spoke at Atlanta, and was telling somebody, he didn't even tell me, I heard him tell somebody, it is so cool because you go one year, you see the people that sign up for the mastermind, and then you come back the next year and you see them on stage and they've grown so much. And I'm like, wow, I never realized, I realized it, but I didn't realize somebody else realized it. But because he's been a sponsor multiple times, he has seen it. And it's so cool. So if you're in the 6-year mastermind, you get 5 minutes on my stage. If you're in the year-long, you get 15 minutes on my stage. And if it's concise, and of course, it's using my speaker systems, so it's just, over the top awesome.
So they're prepared. They know what to do. It's a great stewarding of their time.
Yeah,
for the audience too, which is cool. Like if they've already been trained by you, the audience is going to love their message, right? It's not like you're doing a favor for them and then the audience suffers. It's like, no, the audience is excited because they get all these cool, fresh speakers.
Right.
That are teaching something.
And they're good. We're talking about
and you taught them.
They're very good. And
that's my point. That's great.
Yeah, you can tell the difference between someone who's been with me 6 months and someone who's been with me a year.
So you said 6 months and 1 year program. I think when you first said, if you're part of the 6-year program, I was like
6 months.
I was like, Arvee, I didn't want to say anything in case you're like, nope, 6 years is the new mastermind time. Okay,
hey, that's pretty cool. Months. And it just costs you $1 gazillion.
6 years, you come live with me?
yeah, really, because you're on my stage. But that's one stage. But then I have my 1-day event that I do 2 or 3 times a year, and I'll oftentimes invite. You've been there. You've spoke there.
And what's that called now? Is that still Speak Up?
Speak Up, Get Clients.
Speak Up, Get Clients. That's what I thought.
Yeah, and I'll be having one in a couple months. And that's just, people. Again, I like smaller, more intimate crowds and, where you can really get with the audience and all that. Not that I'm against the 400 people crowd. I'd,
totally
be a
different
guest speaker
experience.
there. But even my speaker training intensive, which is my 4-day premier event, like you've got I only work with 10 people at a time because I want to make sure I'm available to really coach them one-on-one on their speech. But that's just my style.
Well, and Arvee, I want to say too, just commend you on that too, because as long as I've known you, and I've known you at least 10 years.
Yeah.
At this point, I don't know anyone else who's done that. The only reason people ever limit to 10 people is because that's all they can get. And then once they can get 20, they limit it to 20. And then once they get 100, they limit to 100. You have consistently, since I've known you, your master speaker training 4-day program that you've been doing for over a decade at least, has always been limited to 10 people. Maybe 12, but I think it's 10 always, right?
Well, I took 14 one time and I vowed I would never do that again.
And look at that. And how many people could really say, hey, you know what, even if 30 people want to pay me for this, you'll be like, great, I'll just do 3 of them because it's 10 people at a time. That is incredible. So I don't know anywhere else you can get that kind of private work. Man, this has been amazing. Arvee, as we wrap up, kind of a final question for you is, if you were starting out fresh as a brand new speaker on the field today, what advice would you give to yourself as a veteran speaker now to the baby Arvee?
Get as much training as you possibly can. You don't just take one speaker training. Take as many speaker trainings from as many different coaches as you can find, because they all have something different. I do a lot of the mechanics and the systematic approach, but then you might want to go to someone like yourself to add the icing on the cake for the NLP and how to stand and anchor, which I don't do. There's other people that do this whole inspirational thing. There's people that do voice, people that do stories. I do stories too, but some that just specialize. So get as much training as possible before you step out on stage, so that the first time you open your mouth, it's awesome and other people in the audience hear you and want to put you on their stage.
So good. Arvee Robinson, thank you so much. You're a legend.
Thank you.
Guys, you can get everything from Arvee. Remember, go to Arvee, Arvee, ArveeRobinson.com/free closing script. And you can get her free closing script, how to turn interested into income after every single speech. Follow Arvee on social media. It's not hard. She's going to be the only Arvee Robinson because she has such a cool, unique name. And when you go over to ArveeRobinson.com, you'll also see a few other goodies you can get in there. There's, I'm sure, spaces to book time with her. Check out her events, $1,000,000speakersummit.com. And look, she said also sponsorship's a huge thing. So I'd really encourage you to check out not just Arvee's event, but anyone's, but check out $1,000,000 Speaker Summit and see if sponsorship works, because it's one of the best ways to get on stage really quick. Get out there and get on stage. We're excited for you, and I'll see you next week on Speaking of Getting Booked.